So let's change the word fake to predetermined straight away, although I get it, it works for a title. But listen, I can tell you firsthand that pro wrestling really hurts. That's what we're about to get into. Bret Hart has always talked about this though, and how you are a super duper worker if you can enter a match and both of you leave without any marks on your body. I guess that memo didn't get to everyone. Maybe some people are just crazy. Let's go. Number 10, Brock Lesnar ruins Randy Orton's day the hard way. So we all remember this, and it is one of the maddest things that WWE has ever done. And it happened at Hot WrestleMania, aka SummerSlam. Happening all the way back in 2016 when WWE still wanted to be PG, I suppose an individual came up with the idea that Randy should end this match bleeding, but we can't use blades anymore, which of course was the old way, when someone must have gone, well, Lesnar, he's a real fighter, why doesn't he just use his elbow? I know, I shouldn't have slapped my hand. Now look, I totally admit that neither of these options are all of that grand, but seeing Brock Lesnar just wail on Randy Orton's head to the point all this blood came out of his damn skull, it was that bad blood too, the stuff that's really thick, it made me feel oogly boogly. The justification for all this too is that Brock can do it safely, and if you believe that, please come to my hairdresser, well I'll cut your hair with a chainsaw. Of course, Orton got concussed from this and Chris Jericho was freaking out backstage. None of the other wrestlers had been clued in, so as far as he was concerned, Brock Lesnar had got into business for himself. And I can understand this, because in what world would anyone think this was a good idea? It's also so dangerous, there must have been a risk that Orton's career could have ended, and maybe that's hyperbole from me, but I went back and watched this for this video. It is absolutely disgusting. Number 9, stop the damn match. Jim Ross's call from the 1998 King of the Ring will go down in history, and I tell you why it resonates so much. Because good old JR meant it. I think everybody has seen the highlights by this stage, and yes, we still talk about Fall 1, which I totally get. Mick Foley got thrown off the top of that big old cage and landed through Adam the announce table. I don't get how he's still walking. The second fall is most definitely worse though, because 1, neither Mick Foley or The Undertaker thought the cage was gonna give way, and 2, Foley lands right on his head basically, when a chair also comes and thwacks him right in the skull. And even the real life Mark Calloway has talked about this. He thought Mankind was dead. After the fact too, Mick also admitted when he pitched his idea to Vince McMahon, Vince was like, well, have you been up there to see how high it is? And Foley had gone, of course I have, it'll be perfectly fine. I mean, he hadn't do this. And then when he did stand up there, he thought, well, it's not the best idea I've ever come up with, but it's too darn late. So you do have to give all the respect in the world to Foley, because just doing this takes absolutely massive cojones. At the same time, I think as wrestling fans, we need to somehow get to a place where if you do climb somewhere high, you'll have to go, look, I've made a terrible mistake here, and then you go back down to the ground. I mean, I'd much rather that than whatever the alternative could be. Number 8, the second 1998 Hell in a Cell match. Right, so that King of the Ring classic caused such a stir, nobody remembers that a few months after this, we were doing another Hell in a Cell, and this one was on Raw. And if you can believe it, it wasn't even the main event. That's what you call a ratings war. It was August the 24th, if you do need to know, and Mankind was taking on Kane. And of course, halfway through this, when Mick Foley was scaling the cage, The Undertaker was back and he held him through a table. I was like, haven't we done this enough? And sure, yeah, look, he didn't get as high as he had done for round 1, but his head still goes into the concrete floor, which begs the question, why does nobody care about Michael Foley's head? You also get a bunch of chair shots right to the skull, and after 6 minutes of this madness, in comes Stone Cold Steve Austin to end it with a big old schmuzz. That's why you can argue this was more nuts though, because we did this in under 10 minutes. Because of course we were trying to keep the audience's attention. I'm not even sure this was advertised beforehand. So yeah, next time you're talking about the craziness of wrestling, put this in your pocket. Number 7, the Brawl for All. Stupid. So damn stupid. And yes, every time I do talk about this, I have to say the same old thing because it's important. Never forget, because the Brawl for All was meant to be a real bunch of people having a fight, by proxy, you were telling your audience that everything else you were going to see on this show was fake or predetermined or not real. You can choose whatever word you want. But we go back to what I just said, it was stupid. We're also using mid-card talent here as the big old promise that, oh, if you do win, you'll be kicked up to the main event. But that was a lie too, because the whole point of this was to allow Dr. Death Steve Williams to get a big old push. But when he got knocked out by Bart Gunn, did Bart Gunn become a main eventer? No, he didn't. And in fact, right after the Brawl for All, he just vanished from TV. It's also not entertaining at all, because everybody involved seems like they are in danger. And do you know what Bart's reward was? When he was brought back to TV, it was at WrestleMania, where he took on legit boxer Butterbean who gave him the most horrific knockout you've ever seen in your life in around about 8 seconds. I kid you not either, when we do go back to the idea of danger, this could have killed Bart Gunn. Because again, say whatever you want about the bean of butter, he was still a damn pro. The absolute irony of all of this is that when Butterbean first got the call, he thought they wanted him to be involved in a worked match, and he was totally down for this, meaning Bart Gunn could have won. Let's never talk about it again till the next video that I do when I talk about it. What an idiot. Number 6, the 1999 Royal Rumble. We've already talked about unprotected chair shots to the head and how much we do know in 2024. And I guess if you wanted a window into the past when it was really bad, you go to this pay-per-view. It is a story that has done the rounds today, but both Mankind and The Rock agreed, wouldn't it be a great old sight if Mick Foley's hands were handcuffed behind his back when Dwayne Johnson just repeatedly smacked him right in the skull with that weapon? Look, I suppose it did get an emotional response, but we went way too far. So what was meant to be 4 or 5 soon turned into 11 or 12, and the absolute worst part is that Foley's family was in the damn crowd, and all of this was caught on camera for the Beyond the Mat documentary, so you can see it, and I tell you this, it does not make for pleasant viewing. And sure, yes, people like to mention how this actually did turn The Rock into a killer, but I think there are other ways to do it, because again, wrestling is predetermined, and the safety of everybody involved should always be paramount. Number 5, the dumb fun. So for a while there, the WWE did indeed introduce a brand new match type, which was a Symphony of Destruction fight. I can't even say that word, Symphony. It was just a hardcore bout with instruments because they had Elias on the roster, and he played a guitar, and that's the be-all and end-all. I mean, they must have come up with that in about 2 minutes. This is not playing a guitar. And the first of these came on the 21st of February 2020 SmackDown, when Mr. Trum Tum Tum was teaming up with Braun Strowman to take on Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura. I mean, that is a couple of weird pairings. Now at this stage, it's important to note that this wasn't the main event. It was just meant to be a spot of fun, which is why I suppose Braun Strowman saw Shinsuke, picked him up, and hurled him into a piano. I mean, that's like watching a cartoon. Now, while this wasn't a grand version of that, I'm sorry, it must have been real, because go and look at Nakamura's face when he gets held into this thing. He knows something is wrong, and he's right. He busted open his head and blood was going everywhere. It was going to take 9 stitches to stop that too, meaning this totally got out of control, even though it was meant to be stupid. So once again, this ties into the intro. You can watch going, this is so lame, but people are still putting their damn lives on the line. Number 4, the end of WrestleMania 19. So this one was just totally out of control. Because even though Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle was the main event for the WWE title, Kurt should have been nowhere near the ring, because he had been told by a doctor, yeah, Mr. Angle, your neck is really bad, and if you fall on it badly, it could go again. I don't know, maybe you'll die. At that stage, the whole thing should have been changed, but it wasn't. It was the same for Brock as well, and we all know this one because we got to the ending of this match, and to try and cause that oh my gosh moment at WrestleMania, he climbed to the top rope and he tried to do a shooting star press. He went for this maneuver and he landed right on his head, and he too genuinely could have died. I mean, everyone has said the same thing. If he wasn't so muscular, well, let's not talk about it. The worst part of this story is that right after this, both Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar did go into a state of shock, because of course they did. Their bodies were screaming at them, what the hell have you just done? So once again, protecting your talent has to be the number one thing here, because imagine the worst had happened, this would be a completely different tale. I'm just quite glad we don't have to tell it. Number 3, Vince McMahon gets headbutt. For real. Even though this is wrestling. You tell me. It all kind of ties into this phrase we've heard time and time again, which is Vince McMahon will never ask you to do something he wouldn't do, which actually isn't 100% true. I don't think he was driving around rental cars 365 days a year. In 2017, this did rear its head again, quite literally, when he said to Kevin Owens, who was feuding with son Shane, "You are going to butt me right in the head. Damn it, you gotta do it legitimately." Now, Owens has spoken out about this and said how he was under strict orders, even though he thought it was a terrible idea. So yeah, they got to the ring, he went doink, and of course, when Vince fell down, not only was he bleeding, but he was concussed. I mean, some things really are just 2 + 2 = 4. Let's not forget either, this put Kevin under significant risk too, because it's still head on head. Now we are just going down the same path over and over again. But did this make the story or the feud even better? No, it didn't. I don't think we need to do it again. Number 2, the Saudi Arabia disaster. Now I stand by this, and you're allowed to disagree with me, but when I did learn that it was The Undertaker versus Bill Goldberg in Saudi Arabia, and it was pitched as a dream match, I was like, I think that is a dream match. I mean, I understand they both came from WWE and WCW, but Undertaker and Sting, that's a dream match, or Goldberg versus Steve Austin. This kind of just felt like throwing 2 legends together. It still had the potential to be fun, though, when it wasn't. at all. All happening at Super Showdown 2019. It probably should have been stopped before it started, because to warm up for his match, Goldberg headbutted a locker, and he did it a little bit too much, I suppose. He was bleeding, and he was concussed. There it is again. It meant that even before he went ding ding ding, he was a little bit loopy whoopy, which is probably why he went for a spear and totally missed. And then when he went to jackhammer the Undertaker, yep, they both landed on their heads. I'm doing this so I don't have to see it again. You can also just see the frustration on both competitors' faces, especially the Undertaker, who doesn't know what's going on. And I get that they're all-time levels as well, but honestly, at that age, there's only so much you can take. If you've never seen this, always keep it that way. The Undertaker has gone on record too, saying, yes, I was not a fan of that. If nothing else, it's just sad. Once again, we need a danger sign where we can just stop matches halfway through. Although what does that even mean? I don't know. Number one, for getting it to work. So I suppose the law of averages always dictates this was going to happen in professional wrestling, or when wrestlers decide, you know what, I'm just going to beat my opponent up for real. But that still absolutely sucks. But yeah, look at it this way. If somebody has annoyed you on the outside of the ring and you get in the ring and you know what the deal is, if you are a massive asshole, you can just walk up to them and punch them right in the face. We have seen this time and time again, such as when the Public Enemy were brought into the WWF. Apparently backstage, they rubbed everybody the wrong way, which is when the APA just gives them such a beating in the ring. I mean, it's a little bit like a massacre. Kanyon also took the most horrific chair shot you've ever seen from The Undertaker, and that was way too tough. And you know all the stories about Bob Holly, especially when you bring Tough Enough into the equation. I mean, let's put it this way. Would he get away with that now? No, he wouldn't. There's also the curious case of the 90s tag team, the Beverly Brothers, because they had that finisher that was called Shake Heights or whatever it was, where sometimes they would drop people right on the top of their heads. Seriously, you can go see that one online. It will make your eyebrow raise. Because as always, the number one thing about professional wrestling is protecting your opponent, but there have been times throughout the years, well, that's just totally gone out the window.